heart of London as we trek down to the south coast where we'll be hosted by AFC Bournemouth. Kick-off is at 8 p.m, and with the last train back being at 22:08, you'd best get those running shoes prepared. If you're not going, Sky are the broadcaster for this particular one. So Bournemouth then. Well, after a tentative start to the season that saw them win just the once in their first 5 games, and that was a 3-2 win up at Everton, things settled down just a little bit. A statutory 3-1 home win over Southampton was followed by a slight blip at Leicester where they went down 1-0. They then, rather hilariously, beat Arsenal 2-0 at home, the visitors showing that they aren't really all that without refereeing assistance. Since then, Bournemouth have won 4, drawn 1 and lost 2 of their last 7. The last 3 of those being wins away at Wolves 4-2, home against Spurs 1-0, and perhaps slightly fortuitously away at Ipswich last weekend 2-1. All of that has left them in a healthy 8th place with 24 points from 15 games. Daisy tells me that the transfer kitty was bolstered by the somewhat amusing £65 million received for Dominic Solanke. £13 million of that went on making permanent last season's loan move for Turkish international striker Enes Ünal, who arrived in the winter window from Getafe. The permanent deal was said to be obligatory, assuming certain unspecified conditions were met. One assumes that those related to the number of appearances rather than goals scored, given that the striker has notched just the 3 times in the 28 league games he's played since February. Still, his presence allows us to indulge in some schoolboy humour by reminding everyone that his wife is Belgian footballer Lisa Smellers. Their next signing won't actually be seen on Monday. Alex Paulson is a 22-year-old New Zealand goalkeeper who arrived from Wellington Phoenix, before being loaned immediately back to Auckland FC, both sides plying their trade in the Australian A-League. Now, I'm reliably informed that Phoenix and Auckland are something of big rivals, and it would have been fairly unlikely that Phoenix would have willingly transferred their Kiwi international to Auckland direct. All becomes slightly clearer when one learns that Auckland FC are owned by an organisation called Black Knight Football and Entertainment, who, coincidentally, are the owners of AFC Bournemouth. Another absent signing will be Canadian-born striker Daniel Jebison, whose fee of £1.5 million was treated as an out-of-contract training compensation payment to Sheffield United. He was immediately shipped out on loan to Watford. They decided to go for youth in bringing in Dutch-born Spanish central defender Dean Huijsen from Juventus for a fee of £12.8 million. Huijsen had actually gained Dutch caps throughout the whole age group range from under-16 to under-19 level. However, earlier this year he became a Spanish citizen, having moved to Marbella as a kid. Since then he's transferred his international allegiance to the Iberian Peninsula and has since gained caps at Spanish under-21 level. Huijsen it was who netted Bournemouth's winner against Spurs the other week, a match which saw the Spurs faithful calling for Postecoglou to not bother bringing back Solanke with them. Julian Araujo came in from Barcelona for £8.5 million. American by birth, he's actually got 20 caps for Mexico after a string of call-ups by the Septics at various levels, including full, failed to provide more than a handful of appearances. Araujo made over 100 appearances for LA Galaxy in the MSL before crossing the Atlantic to Barca. That move was not without its problems. FIFA originally rejected the transfer when they received the paperwork a stunning 18 seconds late. One presumed they spent that time hunting high and low for the brown envelope that would have made the problem disappear, and didn't find it. The deal eventually went through and the Court of Arbitration for Sport got involved and ruled that the deal was actually okay, really. The biggest chunk of the Solanke money went on Brazilian striker Evan Nilsson, whose arrival from Porto set them back £40 million. He's got 4 goals in 14 league appearances this season. One of those goals was the winner in the 2-1 defeat of Manchester City at the start of the Citizens' recent slump. He's been a recent addition to the Brazilian national squad, making his debut in June, though he's yet to break his international duck. The one loan signing they have came in the form of Chelsea keeper Kepa, whose role is probably football's best example of nominative determination since Wenger put pen to paper on a deal to manage Arsenal. Let's have enough of them, eh? And let's move on to the wild and wacky world of association football. PGMOL finally got round to dismissing rogue referee David Coote. Shame they're not so quick to punish ridiculous referees and their misconduct within the game itself. Still, I suppose it's a start. A recent article in the perennially worthier than thou When Saturday Comes magazine bemoaned the levels of abuse that referees get at all levels of the game. Now, nobody's arguing with the concept of abuse being a bad thing. However, the problem is that incidents of such abuse serve only to obscure the wider problems that PGMO are facing at the moment. Laudable attempts to deal with abuse have a habit of conflating abuse with justifiable criticism, something that, whether by accident or design, suits PGMOL's agenda right down to the ground. With no criticism, there can be no improvement, and we've already seen where that leads. And so to us. Well, the concept of fireproof referees showed the failings of that as a concept up at Leicester, where a perfectly good goal was ruled out by an official who had a nightmare of a game. Now, I'm told that our XG stat, whatever that is, was something off the scale. Not that I particularly care for a statistic that seems to have been invented by that Spurs spurious records department. You know, the lot that kept churning out records and stats about Harry Kane becoming the player to score the most goals in a month beginning with A, or some such nonsense, distracting Spurs fans in the process from their lack of trophies, for a little while anyway. Now, I couldn't give a fig for whatever XG says. You don't stick the ball in the net, you don't win games. Seems simple, doesn't it? However much you demolish the opposition. Referees don't help, of course, but frankly, if you're now relying on them to do their job properly, you really haven't been paying attention. Which brings us to Wolves. Now, they were highly put out by the refereeing in Monday night's match. Looking at the incidents that caused the problems, they might have had a point with one of the key decisions made. The Emerson so-called foul was clearly outside the area, and the contact, arguably, was caused by the striker's leg connecting with Emerson rather than the other way round. So, at worst, that should have been a free kick, and I don't even think that. In the build-up to the second goal, the so-called foul by Mavropanos? Nah. They'd have been fuming had a penalty been given for the numerous occasions that such challenges had gone the other end. The one they may have had a point on was the occasion when Mavropanos stood on the striker's foot. The official excuse was that the contact wasn't enough to cause the fall that ensued. The striker's delayed descent to the floor probably did him no favours, but there could have been few complaints had the penalty been awarded. In truth, the referee had a very poor night, as they all seem to do these days all the time. The inconsistencies were alarming. Doherty finally got a yellow for his fourth cautionable offence, a fact helpfully confirmed by the referee who pointed out the locations on the pitch of where the other offences had taken place. Doherty probably shouldn't have been on the pitch to score their equaliser, and his lenient treatment contrasted with that of Emerson, whose yellow for a highly innocuous challenge will now see him serving a one-match ban. Soler picked up a yellow for kicking the ball away, which was the second time in the game that had happened. Only one instance got a yellow, though. Still, I think we should really be grateful for the referee because he really got the important things right. Thank the Lord he spotted the problem with the sleeves that Somerville was wearing, thus preventing the threat of the descent into anarchy that such matters clearly posed to the game. We should all be so grateful. Of course, the big shadow hanging over proceedings was that horrible-looking accident to Michael Antonio that happened on Saturday. The photos of the car looked terrifying, though on reflection, much of that damage may have been the result of the actions of the emergency services in extricating Mickey from the wreckage. Clearly, it's too early to be wondering about what the future holds for Mickey. However, if the reports suggesting that the club may extend his contract for a further year are correct, it'll be one of the more honourable things that our owners have done over the years. Either way, we do send our best wishes to Mickey. He'll obviously be missing on Monday, as will Emerson, whose enforced rest is entirely due to the wonderful refereeing we're treated to every week. Everyone else, however, should be available for selection. This is a difficult one to predict. If prime Bournemouth turn up, there'll be a tough nut to crack. On the other hand, their win at Ipswich was kind of less than convincing. That sort of side should be eminently beatable. Of course, we can equally be Jekyll and Hyde ourselves. So I think I'm going to plump for a stalemate here. So the £2 that I was going to put towards a copy of the Laws of the Game to give to referees so that they have more than one copy to share between them, which clearly seems to be the case at present, will instead be wagered on a bet for the game to finish 1-1. Enjoy the game.